Hello amazing people, my name is Chenemi and you're welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'll be teaching you how to create this beautiful bubu kaftan gown with a runched shoulder. So my fabric right here is folded into two, one part for the front and the other for the back. So around the edge right there, as you can see, I marked 1.5 inches and then I connected it to meet the center front at 0.5 inches. So I cut down straight to meet the 1.5 inches I marked for the shoulder slant. So around the neckline, I marked 3.5 inches wide and then I'll go ahead and mark 4 inches depth. I know you can't see it right there, but it is 4 inches deep. The neck is 4 inches deep. I don't want it to be too deep and I don't want it to be too wide. So it's 4 inches deep and then 3.5 inches wide. So go ahead and mark, and then I connected it round to give it a round shape. You can do any shape of neckline you want. But for this dress, I believe a round neck is better, sits better, it's finer. And then so I went and curved it round and then I cut it out like so. So around the sleeve right there, I'll place my tape at the top and then I'll mark below 12 inches. So 12 inches is for my sleeve opening, and then I went ahead to connect it downwards. 12 inches is just okay for me for the sleeve opening, 12 inches. And then so I went ahead to mark 20 inches around that part you can see there. I added extra 8 inches to her hip measurement. Her hip measurement divided by 4 is 12 inches. So I went ahead to add extra 8 inches to make the kaftan full and fluffy. And that's because the material is very lightweight and then it's slippery. So you want the kaftan to be very full. So I went ahead to cut it out, cut down like so. And for the length, I make use of a length of 60 inches. And then from this, after cutting out like so, I'll go ahead and overlock all the edges of this dress, leaving only the neck. Except for the neck, I'll overlock everything. So I've gone ahead to overlock all the parts of this dress, leaving only the neck. And then right there, I'm sewing around the shoulder. Right there, right now, you can see my overlocker has done a very neat job. And then I'm sewing at about 0.75 inches. It's not up to 1 inch. I'm just trying to make sure I have enough space there for my casing. So I'll go ahead and sew down to meet the hem of the sleeve right there. So I'll go ahead and repeat the same process for the other side of the sleeve. Now, like I said, I'll be sewing at 0.75 inches around that area. That is because you're trying to create a casing for the drawstring. After that is done, you want to go ahead and open up the part with which you have sewn at 0.75 inches. Then you sew straight up to meet any point you want, at any point you want around the shoulder. You can make it longer, you can make it shorter. Just make sure you create something that you can draw, that you can pull up to gather up some space to create the runch. So I'll be sewing and stopping at 16 inches away from the sleeve. Right there you can see I'm trying to adjust it to see how the length is, but I'm not comfortable with the length, so I had to increase it a little bit. So mark or place your tape at the hem of the sleeve and then mark 16 inches and then sew. Or if you want your runch to be fuller or longer, you can extend it to 18, 17 inches. Somewhere close to the neckline, not so close, but a bit close. Like mine is not so close, so it's 16 inches. So around that. So I went ahead to sew down to meet the hem of the dress. That will be you creating the casing for the drawstring. So go ahead and repeat the same process for the other side of the sleeve. It's the same thing all over again. That being done, go ahead and flip your fabric over and then use a bias tape to turn in the neckline, a matching bias tape. Now if you're making up use of this fabric that I am using, you're using a similar kind of fabric, you want to be careful around the neck area. You do not want to make any mistakes, so you do not have to rip the seam over, because that could affect the width and the depth of the neckline. This fabric, like I said earlier, is very lightweight and then it's very slippery, so you have to be very careful so you do not have to rip any seam around that area. So I'll go ahead and sew round the neck and then I'll show you. That being done, I'm going to go ahead and create a tiny notch around the neckline. This notch helps to reduce tension. It helps to the neckline to relax after sewing it. So go ahead and notch it slightly. Make sure you're not cutting too much around that area. So go ahead and create the notch, and then I'll flip the fabric over, and then I'll sew the neckline down. So what you see me right there doing is flipping it over, and then I'll go ahead and then fold it inwards like so, and then I'll sew around the neckline. Just go ahead and do yours just the way you're used to turning in your neckline with your bias tip. Make sure you're using a matching colored bias and then a matching thread, of course. So I'll go ahead and sew around the neck like I'm doing right now, round it. At this point, you want to be careful with your stitch. Just take it slow and steady. You don't want to have a tacky stitch on the outer part of the neckline. So you have to take it slow and steady and gently. Yes, so you can see how neat the neckline is. Go ahead and make sure you sew your own neatly, just the way you see mine. So at the edge of your casing, you want to cut out a little part of the fabric out there, just to create a little hole with which you can pass out your string. That is all you need to do. Just cut it out a little bit. Yes, these tiny little holes you see right there is what I'm talking about. So go ahead and create your own very little hole. Just a little hole where you can pass your string out to the other end, so you can draw your string. So your string should be 3 times the length of your casing. So my casing is 16 inches long, times 3 is what I used to sew my string. So I went ahead to use my safety pin, passed it through the string, and then I'll be putting it, or rather I'll be using it to, I'll be passing it through the casing and then to the other end of the fabric. Then I'll draw my runch. So you're going to see right there that what you see me doing right here is passing the string through the loop. Yes, and then I'll draw it out like so, and then I'll like so, then I'll pass it through the other hole, the little hole you see there. These two little holes, they are very important for you to be able to draw your string. So I'll pass it through it and then to the other end, and then I'll bring it out like so, and then you can draw your string. Yeah, so you can see that is the runch we're talking about. So you see it's very, very simple. So go ahead and tie it whichever style you want to. Just be stylish with your tying. Yes, so I'll go ahead and do the same thing for the other parts of the dress. You can see how beautiful this looks. This is so beautiful and very simple to create. So for the other side, I'll do the same thing and then show you what it looks like also. So you can see I'm tying it to the style with which I want. Then I flipped it over to the other side, and it's so beautiful. You can see that. So at this point, I'll be wrapping up this dress. So I'll be sewing from the sleeve down to the hem. That is the last stage of the dressmaking. So I'll be sewing at 0.5 inch from the sleeve down to meet the hem of the dress. I'll be doing this part on camera, and then I'll be doing the other part off camera. So go ahead and recreate your own, and then let's see what it looks like, what the outcome is. Yes. So if this video has been helpful to you, I'd like you to like